This is just a little video for this guy with what we've been working on the past couple of weeks with him after the Kuna clinic. Now, take a lot of time to warm him up in the walk, just like I'm doing here. And the aim is, through all his work, to get him to stretch really round. Not so much that he's going long, but that he comes really as deep as you can get him. And you're going to get him deep like that by just gently either doing a bit of flexion right or flexion left. Not so much that you're pulling on both reins at the same time. See there, I was doing a little bit of flexion to the outside and then a little bit to the inside, that he stays nice and soft. But with that, softening him, getting him really soft and as deep as you can, you want to get him to accept the leg pressure into that deeper contact as well. So hence we're starting the transitions, that he accepts the leg going into that rounder, deeper contact, which he doesn't always accept. See there again, I was doing a bit of flexion, more flexion to the right and a little bit back to the left. See here, we're asking for a trot transition, but it doesn't come through really quite straight away. But I don't want you to think of rushing him on. Just sort of keep asking gently until he responds to the leg. Because we also want to keep him mentally relaxed, that we're not pushing him over the limit in his head. But the same thing all the time, that you're just encouraging him to come that little bit deeper, that tiny bit rounder, and accepting your leg pressure to that contact. That was a good transition. Because that's what's going to create your engagement, that he accepts your half halts, which is exactly what these are, just half halts. See there, doing a little bit of counter flexion, because he likes to put that shoulder out, that right shoulder out. So that little bit of just counter flexing and pushing the shoulder a little bit back in, that just straightens him back up and aligns his quarters with his shoulder. Like that walk transition wasn't actually meant to happen, but sometimes he's going to do that with that little bit of rein there, keeping him really deep, because it's easier for him just to slow down rather than keep the engine running. So it's not so much that you're doing like fancy, tricks and things, but you're just very conscious about every transition, that he really accepts your leg, because it's going to make him much better in the dressage ring. You'll be able to do a lot more with him when he's listening. So that little walk transition just before, that wasn't meant to happen either, but he responded quite quickly to the leg without getting tense through the top line. So there was a little bit of flexion left and then back to the right when I changed direction. So it doesn't have to be big all the time. That time he just came a little bit behind the leg in the transition. So your flexion doesn't have to be massive, but just little bits, that you're slowly bringing him deeper just with one rein and not two. The halt was nice and smooth. Naughty boy. But he's always never a horse that you're really going to be harsh about. See there, a little bit of flexion right, a little bit of flexion left, just keeping him coming deep, so that he can do the transition well. It's keeping him round, keeping him stretching as deep as you can through all your transitions. So yeah, we're just doing tiny bit of counterflexion there. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'd rather that much better that he goes gradually into the transition, especially this left side where he chucks the shoulder out. You felt that before, he jumps out to the right. I'd rather him go gradually and stay soft into the contact than sort of punching him on forward. But same thing through the canter, you're just keeping a little flexion. Yep, that walk transition wasn't meant to happen. But again, that's just, being able to keep him a little deeper, but accept the leg at the same time, that you can have a bit of power. There's a bit of counterflexion again, bringing the shoulder around, just preparing for the transition. Good boy. There's little tiny pauses, they'll go eventually once he accepts the leg. But the transition itself was quite good. You can see him starting to come slowly rounder and rounder and more together, and he gets truer in the connection. Yeah, that transition wasn't quite so good because he was a little bit sharp off the leg and didn't quite stay soft through the contact. But then if you get a transition like that, you just repeat it again. And again with the canter, you're just asking him to stay really deep in a nice rhythm. These little walk sections are almost like breaks for him. So you're still, riding him like I was there with the flexion, and he's soft, but the walking's a lot easier for him. Just keeps him motivated to keep trying, and remember, we don't want to push him over that edge. That's good boy. Yeah, good transition. That was much better. It's a good boy. And it's just keeping him stretching, keeping him really, really round, really deep in through all the transitions. There's a little bit of counterflexion, correcting that shoulder that it doesn't fall out to the right. Now here we're just about to do a couple of walk canters. And these are even harder for him because see how he's starting to get a little bit unsettled in the bridle, and just do a little counterflexion there, correct the shoulder that he stays straight. Yeah, that was okay. But he still doesn't quite accept the leg in the transition and then tightens up in the contact. But you just keep repeating until you get the one that you want. But you can see with all the work how he's getting shorter in the frame, more together. And funnily enough, more uphill, even though you're thinking of riding him deeper and rounder, because he's engaging his quarters. Yep, that's alright, and if the aid doesn't come through like that and he starts to struggle, I'd rather you keep him soft and just repeat it again than to really drive him on into the canter. He'll accept the leg when he's ready. Just correct the shoulder there like you did. Good boy. That was a good one. So keep him stretching, keep him round, keep him deep so that he takes the contact from the leg forward into the contact. And that little resistance there, he was just starting to sit back behind the leg and then not keep the connection, so it's just gently forward. Good boy. See a little counter flexion there, and he responded to the aid straight away.